several distinguished guests joining us from the Icelandic Embassy in Ottawa, the Consulate in Winnipeg, as well as our like-minded organizations in the INL US and the INL Iceland. Today we will have a discussion with Icelandic volcanologists on recent eruptions, and they will be interviewed by former Snorri. I'm always interested in the volcanic activity, as in my family, after Eyjafjallajökull, I could not escape the nickname of Icelandic Ash. So I would like to share with you on this occasion, just to set the tone for this meeting, an excerpt from Magnus Einarsson's 1991 3-volume collection on the memory, lore, oral narratives, and popular verse of the descendants of Icelanders in North America. He refers to Icelandic Canadians in the title, but his interviews include memories from residents of North Dakota and Washington State. The description he provides of the individuals he interviewed, I felt, was a particularly apt description of the members of the INLNA and our affiliate organizations. He says that for these books, his team interviewed individuals of all different backgrounds and outlook, but they were all by and large people who neighbors would refer to as Góðir Íslendingar, good Icelanders. All of them spoke good Icelandic and made a point of staying in touch with Iceland and all things Icelandic. Many had been to Iceland on one or more occasion, mostly on charter flights that began in the 1950s. Remember, these interviews are happening in 1991. And while the value of these good Icelanders as bearers of old country culture has been invaluable, their knowledge is now unshareable, and the role, like so many other facets of old country facets of ethnic life, has become symbolic. With their passing, one can see the demise of an active Icelandic culture in North America. Fortunately, however, that is not the end of the story, since the culture of the immigrant generation and their children has given rise to a uniquely Icelandic North American culture. This new cultural complex, which has been gradually replacing the old almost from the beginning, is reliant on the old culture for most of its symbols and rituals of identity. And that includes the stories we read and write and share through our clubs and INLNA programming. Whether they exist only in the minds of good Icelanders or in print sitting on a parlor shelf, they retain their value along with an array of other markers and identity icons as symbols of this new culture. North American in content and intent, Icelandic in look and form. On a personal level, the great values these programs, stories, and connections bring lies in the pleasure and comfort they give to the few who are still able to enjoy them, not merely as symbols or souvenirs, but as vehicles of imaginative transport. So I read that to you today because I wanted to thank you for joining us as good Icelanders, interested in staying in touch with Iceland and learning about all things Icelandic. I'm delighted to turn to our international dignitaries and bring greetings before we start our program on Icelandic activity in North America. So why don't I turn now? I think we have Hlynur Guðjónsson, the Icelandic Ambassador to Canada, here to join us and bring remarks.
Thank you, Ashley. Oh, here we are. Thank you, and good afternoon. Dear friends, thank you for inviting me to address the INLA conference in 2024, and it's a pleasure to be with you again in what is my 5th INLNA conference attending, and hopefully not my last. I would like to thank you again for the wonderful experience you provided in Banff just a year ago, and for me, the insights I gained from the many speakers presenting at the conference. I still reach out and pick up Solskinsbörn, the Sunshine Children, to read one of the letters published in Lögberg's children's newspaper Solskin, which that discussion was one of my highlights in Banff last year. But I was given free range on what topic I would like to discuss, and decided to step out of our past and into the now and the future, and give you a kind of a state of the union, or an overview of the status and future of the relationship between Canada and Iceland. In 2022, we celebrated the 75th year anniversary of Canada-Iceland diplomatic relations. And we worked very closely with Ambassador Jeanette Menzies at the Embassy of Canada in Reykjavik in organizing events online where we reached around 1,300 people through various webinars throughout the year. We as well gifted books from our respective nations to the public libraries in Reykjavik, Akureyri, Iqaluit, Yellowknife, and Whitehorse, which I delivered with great joy in person. And that relationship with Iqaluit, Yellowknife, and Whitehorse is still in place. And before this past Christmas, I sent them a book gift for them to enjoy the Icelandic Jólaboka Flóð, or the Icelandic Christmas book avalanche, and which I hope they enjoyed. We have continued this collaboration with the Canadian Embassy in Reykjavik and organized 5 to 6 events per year on topics that are close to our hearts and minds of the Icelandic and Canadian public. Our next one will be on the women's strike in 2023 in Iceland and lessons learned, and will take place on June 5th. I encourage you to keep an eye out for information on that and join us. As you know, President Guðni Thorlacius Jóhannesson and First Lady Eliza Reid's state visit took place in May and June 2023, and they visited Ottawa, Halifax, St. John's, and Toronto. Many people thought that we were going a little nuts by this kind of heavy agenda, but 4 cities in 4 days, and the main goal of the visit, aside from cultural and diplomatic relations, was to strengthen our business relationship with focus on the industries the embassy has emphasized on the past 2.5 years, or the blue economy, renewable energy, and energy transition, health tech, and the relationship with the Canadian Northern Arctic. We are still following up on opportunities and relationships formed during the trip, but to give you a glimpse into what a visit like this means, then we organized over 20 business and cultural related events over the 4-day visit, which over 700 invitees attended, and there were over 630 media mentions about the visit in Canada and the US. This is all very, very helpful when we come knocking representing Icelandic interest in Canada. And we have felt the positive feedback after the president's visit. Few weeks after the state visit, Prime Minister Trudeau visited Iceland and took part in the Nordic Prime Minister's meeting in Vestmannaeyjar, which opened us up for discussions for companies like Carbfix in Iceland, which the Prime Minister visited. They actually said that they had in the meeting. I was there in the little hut where the borehole is, and your Prime Minister, or the Prime Minister of Canada, was asking a lot of questions. And the Carbfix people, they mentioned that they had never received so many scientific questions from a political visit, which was very positive. But he was very interested. And a few weeks back, the Carbfix announced a partnership with the Canadian climate company Deep Sky, a company based in Quebec. Those high-level visits and increased activity have assisted us on the bilateral side. And the first Canada-Iceland bilateral dialogue took place in October 2022, or 76 years after we took up diplomatic relations with Canada. Our goal was to start a continuous dialogue every year or every 2 years, and the second bilateral was a year later in Ottawa, and the third one will take place in Iceland on October 2025, but with a shorter consultation in Iceland in October 2024. Canada does not do many of those dialogues, and neither does Iceland. So we feel very privileged to be able to form and grow our relationship in this meaningful way through continued conversation and meaningful dialogue with Canada. We cover a wide range of topics in the bilateral dialogue. And after the first one, we had over 20 action items to address, which we were able to finalize before the second one in January this year. We discussed trade and investment relations, global issues and risks, security challenges and priorities, multilateral cooperation, and Arctic cooperation outside of the Arctic Council. And here I am pleased to inform you that Canada announced after our last meeting a $20 million partnership support for the Nordic Nordforsk Research Fund, which is one of the projects that we discussed in our meetings in January. And our former ambassador to Canada, Peter Ásgeirsson, was diligently pushing to fruition. Another project to mention that we have discussed in our bilateral platform is the Youth Mobility Agreement between Iceland and Canada. The agreement is now open to applications from Canadian and Icelandic citizens. The YMA is designed to promote and facilitate access to opportunities that enable our youth to gain a better understanding of other countries' culture, society, and languages through travel, work, and life experience abroad. It allows youth up to 30 years old to work and live for up to 12 months, and with a possible extension to 24 months, up to 24 months without having a job in place before you apply for the visa. And the process is much simpler. And I am gonna, if that is okay, put in the chat here our website, where you can go and you can get a recording of the webinar that we did for the Youth Mobility Agreement, along with other webinars. We usually, and for the most part, we record them. So there's quite a bit of material of what we've been doing as the embassy, or in partnership with the Canadian Embassy and other partners in Canada and Iceland. So there's quite a bit of material on there. Another important front on the bilateral side is security and defense. And there we decided to approach it from the academia side at the same time as the government side. Our first step was an event on NORAD modernization and the event took place in Iceland, where we brought Dr. James Ferguson, professor at the University of Manitoba in Winnipeg, to Iceland in late year 2021 to present and discuss NORAD with Icelandic defense specialists, politicians, and the public. The relationship with the University of Manitoba proved to be fruitful. And through James and his colleague, Dr. Andrea Charon, we were able to connect with the North American and Arctic Defense and Security Network, as well as the Mobilizing Insights on Defense and Security, both Canadian entities, to secure funding for a Canada-Iceland focused forum in Iceland in 2023, which was held in June last year, and again here in Ottawa at the end of May this year at the War Museum. These events have and will prove to be very valuable in deepening the understanding and the interest on both, we feel, government and academia side going into the future. And the event here in May at the War Museum, we will have quite an attendance from both the Canadian military and Department of Defense, Global Affairs Canada, as well as the Coast Guard. So we got the first leg moving, and the second leg was government, which is as well very active. And I'm pleased to say that we have now, for the first time in our relationship, accredited a defense attaché from Iceland to Canada. He is based in Washington, D.C., which but so are the other Nordic defense attachés. But this opens a new door for us in getting information and sharing information with our ally in Canada. And this is hand in hand with the work that we have been doing with our academia partners. As I mentioned earlier, on our trade and investment focus in Canada is on the blue economy, renewable energy and energy transition, health tech and entrepreneurship, and the relationship with the Canadian North and Arctic. We set out with this strategy in late 2021 for 4 years, and we are seeing some progress and traction. And in the end, I would like to just mention a few of those projects that we are currently working on the trade and investment side. And some of those are directly, for example, linked to the state visit in last year, where we, for example, brought our president and first lady to St. John, and Newfoundland is an important partner in one of our projects. And that project is the Canadian Healthcare Market Access Program. which we work with our partner in Newfoundland, the Newfoundland Laboratory Health Services. And we have there, for example, we are going into the third installation of that program now for 24 to 25. But we've already gotten 3 companies through that program, which is Prescribe-B, a company that is based on helping people with addicted to pain medicine, opioids, and others. Kerecis, that you might know, the skincare, the serious wound skincare company from Iceland that uses cod skin for the product, and Retina Risk. Those companies are or have gone through Canada Health process to gain the necessary documentation they need to work in Canada. So 3 companies that we have pretty much gotten through the process, and we are hoping to be working with 2 to 4 companies in 24 to 25. Renewable energy and clean tech. This has been an important part of our work. We have been working with companies such as Icewind, Laki Power, and Landsvirkjun. Icewind, we've been working with, they are now a part of something called DIAN, which is Energy Resilience Accelerator and Defense Research and fund or accelerator that is run by NATO. And we've also been working with Icewind in getting them in potential pilot tests here in Canada through Department of Defense, as well as Laki Power that we have that did a pilot test with Manitoba Hydro in 22 and are now talking to and hopefully working with other owners of power grids in Canada. Landsvirkjun, a very interesting project that they are looking at with Growler Energy in Newfoundland, which is both a wind and hydro project in Nunavut. And this is all that has been happening in the past kind of 2 years, these developments. The north-to-north trade, the north and the north-to-north relationship has been very important to us. And we are, for example, taking a delegation organized by the Inuit Development Corporation Association to Iceland with focus on seafood, tourism, energy, and health tech in September. And we are going to the seafood show and the 100% or no waste conference. This is an ongoing kind of relationship that we hope that we will see various outcomes in that on the finance, tech, and seafood kind of sales and marketing side. And then in our work in the marine technology collaboration with Fisheries Council of Canada, trade shows and delegation to Halifax and Vancouver in 22 and 23, and our relationship with the Canadian Coast Guard, introducing them to companies like Rafnar and Heavy Marine. So all in all, we feel that the current state and the future of Iceland-Canada relationships is bright, filled with opportunities in both trade and investment, as well as bilateral relationships. And I don't know if that is allowed, but maybe we have a time for 1 or 2 questions.
Sure. Are there, here, I'll put it, I was going to recommend that people go on speaker view, but I'll just look at the gallery now. If there's any question, I'll take one now. No, I think you could use the raise hand function if there's a question, but I don't see any. I think it was quite comprehensive. Oh, yeah, if that's right. So you would have to turn on your camera if there's a question that you have. I just wanted to highlight as well this exciting news about the youth mobility agreement, because certainly for me as a Snorri, I went to Iceland in 2006 for the summer, was very excited and wanted to find a pathway back. And so the youth mobility agreement, with having a more flexible means of obtaining the ability to go get a work permit without having to have an employer in place first, that's a huge advantage. And also you can tell there's a lot of innovative things happening in Iceland. And so it's also something for young people's careers and investment, not only to, you know, explore their Icelandic identity perhaps, but also to learn about the exciting things happening in Iceland. Well, thank you, Hlynur. I'll maybe turn to William, our Consul General in Manitoba.
Yes, thank you, Ashley. I'm very happy to be here. I was quite pleased when I got the invitation, and just as Hlynur was talking about, we were very impressed last year in Banff, and so it is a very nice thing for us to meet like this. I've been fortunate enough this year to be able to visit quite a number of Icelandic clubs that are members of the INL. So this year, and I have to say, I've been quite impressed with the amount of work that they're doing, with the sort of enthusiasm, the number of people that have been attending the events that they've invited me to. So things are looking quite good. We're seeing some new people coming into the sort of the management of these clubs, which I think is a very positive, measure. And I found that many of the projects that are being done through these clubs are very valuable in terms of looking at preserving the heritage of Iceland in North America. I've also been very pleased to see how the clubs are supporting the Snorri program, because I think the Snorri program is probably the single most important in sort of project that has happened over the past years in terms of sort of ensuring that the work of the Icelandic clubs continue, because this is where you introduce the young people to Iceland, to the relations between Iceland and Canada and Iceland and the US. So I'm very happy to see how much support the clubs are giving and the emphasis that they're putting on making sure that they're sending some of their young people to Iceland. And talking about young people, I would like to echo what both you, Ashley, and Hlynur talked about with the Youth Mobility Program. This is very exciting. And I would like to ask people here to sort of spread the word, because I find that a lot of people are not aware of this, that this is now in place. It looks to be reasonably easy for either Canadian citizens between 18 and 30 to get a permit to go to Iceland, or for Icelandic citizens, the same age, to come to Canada, right? You can work, you can be fired from your job, but you could just get a new job. You don't lose your permit if you lose your job. So this is, I think, very exciting. And as you said, Ashley, I think a lot of the Snorris, they would like to explore this possibility. But we should remember, this is not, you don't have to be of Icelandic descent, right? As long as you're a Canadian citizen, you can do this. And again, I think we should be sort of promoting this and sort of telling as many people as we can about this. I wanted then to just say a few words on the 150-year celebrations that are going to take place next year in commemoration of the first group of Icelanders, the first large group of Icelanders that came to the shores of Lake Winnipeg. I know that the INL convention next year will be focusing on that, but there will be a number of other events taking place, and I would like to ask you to sort of keep your eyes open. And again, it's sort of a matter of spreading the word. Maybe you want to attend some of these events, but also tell others that this is happening, because I think in today's world where there is so much information overload on us, we sometimes just lose track of something that is happening. So I think we need to be sort of make others aware. I believe that there may also be some events in Minnesota as well next year, looking at 150 years. but I'm sure they will tell us more about that. But thank you very much for the invitation and allowing me to say a few words. I wish you all the best for your AGM and also for your work in the coming year. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Hlynur. You and Hlynur both have been so supportive in your roles to all of the INLNA initiatives. So we're particularly thankful for you joining us today, and also what you've both brought to the role in your time in Canada. So I'd just like to share, we did have regrets from the Icelandic Ambassador to the United States, Bergdís Ellersdóttir, but we would like to invite Douglas Hanson, President of the INL US, to bring greetings from that organization. Doug?
Thanks, Ashley. Well, Gwendai and friends, it's great to see so many familiar faces and names in attendance here today. Got to meet and see many of you in Banff last year. Thank you to Ashley and Gwen and the INLNA for inviting me to join you all here today. I'm honored to bring greetings from the United States, especially from our INL US individual, family, business, and Icelandic organization members. These members, as well as our many donors and friends, make the important work of the INL US possible, and I'm proud to represent them today. While the INL US is a relatively young organization, and we will celebrate our 5th year next month, our local Icelandic clubs represent communities that date back to some of the very first Icelandic settlements in North America. Together, we all share a passion for our heritage, history, and community, and while international boundaries, time zones, and even global pandemics may separate us from time to time, this shared passion always binds us together. All 3 Icelandic national leagues, the INLNA in Canada, the INL Iceland, and the INL US in the United States, work together on a shared mission to support and grow the Icelandic community and to strengthen our ties to one another. We look forward to ongoing cooperation as we continue with this vital mission in the months and years ahead. I wish you all a successful meeting today and hope we can all meet in person one day soon, perhaps in Mountain or Gimli later this summer. Thank you, and talk vidare.
Thank you, Doug. And now I would like to invite Paula from Paula Hallgrímsson from the Icelandic National League of Iceland to provide remarks. The organization, let me try, the Þjóðfélagsfélag. Yeah, very close, very close. Hi, Paula.
Very close. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am honored to bring greetings from Þjóðræknisfélag Íslendinga. I know it's a difficult word. The Icelandic National League of Iceland, to the Icelandic National League of North America on this convention. Þjóðræknisfélagið, INL Iceland, has always been about strengthening and maintaining ties between Icelanders in Iceland and the descendants of Icelanders in North America. The Board of Þjóðræknisfélag bears this very important goal in mind in all its undertakings. For example, we try our best to inform our members of events and news of our cousins in North America in our Facebook sites, via email, or in our newsletters. Last October, we held our annual INL Iceland convention in cooperation with Árnastofnun, where the project Í fótspor Árna Magnússonar í Vesturheimi was launched at Edda Hús Íslenskunnar. The project was supported by INL Iceland, among other sponsors, where thousands of images of Icelandic manuscripts and letters in Canada and the United States was made available to the public for the first time. The website is accessible in both Icelandic and English. INL Iceland has also supported Icelandic schools or individuals that have, in one way or another, preserved the Icelandic presence in North America. Furthermore, INL Iceland has given the Snorri Foundation a generous grant this year for their programs to celebrate 25 years of Snorri and to publish 25 years of Snorri magazine, which will be available before and at the Icelandic festivals this summer. And perhaps most importantly for our ties, something we feel both fortunate and grateful for, is the INLNA and INL US representation on our board, namely Ashley Thorvaldsson and Douglas Hanson, who have attended our meetings virtually this year. I also want to thank our former representatives, Diane O'Konski and Beverly Arason-Godet for their contribution and cooperation these past years. And on May 28 at 4:30 p.m. Icelandic time, INL Iceland holds its annual meeting at the Foreign Ministry. We will most likely stream the event, and we encourage you to attend. The info will be available on our Facebook page and sent also via emails to all members. I look forward to hopefully see all of you this summer at the August of Do's and the Icelandic festivals in Gimli. It is so special to celebrate our mutual ties and continue to strengthen our relationship. And if in Iceland this summer, I would also encourage you to attend our convention, which will be held August 25th at the Hotel Natura in Reykjavik. The program is going to be exciting and will be published later. And thank you again so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day and convention.
Oh, thank you, Paula. It was a real pleasure to go and meet you in October at Edda House for your AGM. And I was just happy to have a quick trip to Reykjavik and also participate in the Arctic Circle Assembly while I was there. So it was just a lovely time. But thank you.